First, I would like to join Principal Wolf in thanking Daniel Bartholomew for joining us today. It means a great deal to all of us that you've taken the time and effort to come and join us and help us commemorate this moment. The letter of apology that Principal Wolf and I just signed is only one part of our plan for addressing the harm that Queen's caused through the unjust motion that was passed just over 100 years ago. But it's a significant part because it's important that we as a university admit our wrongs and take ownership of them. In this letter of apology, we say, we are resolved to confront our past actions and more fully to understand the meaning of the university's historical racism, including a commitment to identify its causes, consequences to the best of our ability. We understand that our actions have negatively affected students and prospective students. We understand that our past actions contributed to a broader North American pattern of denial of access to equal medical opportunities for Black practitioners and patients alike. In reckoning with our institutional history, we are committed to acknowledging our failures and to learning from our mistakes. We will ensure that this episode of the university's history is acknowledged in a public space on campus. In doing so, we will integrate the lessons from this racist ban in the curriculum of undergraduate medical trainees as part of their broader training on social bias and systemic inequality in medicine. We will also commit funding and resources to support the recruitment and training of Black medical students to address persistent underrepresentation within the profession. It's our sincere desire to confront this past, to learn from it, and never again to repeat it. This is only a brief excerpt of the letter we just signed, but I wanted to highlight it here because it shows that we want to reflect on the 1918 policy in order to better understand what we need to do going forward. And apologizing is really only the beginning of the work. Later in the Senate meeting, after Senate convenes, I'll take a few minutes and give a short presentation to say a little bit more about the actions that we're undertaking in the School of Medicine, some of which I alluded to in the passage. While we are profoundly regretful of our past wrongdoings, we also want to use this moment of reckoning as an opportunity to renew our commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equity in the School of Medicine. We're dedicated to these principles and to doing all that is necessary to ensuring that the school is accessible to and culturally safe for everyone. I'd now like to invite Stephanie Simpson, our Associate Vice Principal of Human Rights, Equity, and Inclusion, to say a few words.
Thank you, Dean Resnick. First, I would like to say how grateful I am to have had the opportunity to serve on the commission alongside colleagues and students dedicated to moving this issue forward in the most thoughtful and respectful way possible. I'm particularly grateful to Edward Thomas, whose diligence and firm commitment to justice and truth-telling have brought us all to this place. I too would like to thank you, Mr. Bartholomew, for taking the time to be with us today. I wish to address these brief remarks to everyone gathered, but most importantly to the memory of those affected by the 1918 ban and their descendants. This is indeed an historic moment and one that we acknowledge is long overdue. But it is important for you to know that the students of the 1918 ban were never forgotten. In the midst of denials, mischaracterizations, and silences, your story was told. It found its way into the scholarship of those who possessed both an audacity to question and a commitment to the truth, knowing, as Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us, that truths crushed to the earth can only rise. And as Black and racialized students, we carried your story forward, generation to generation, because we recognized the adversity that you faced in the struggles of our own parents and grandparents. We experienced your story as somehow connected to our own and treated its preservation as our solemn duty. Many would say that institutional racism is rarely as explicit today as it once was, but the challenges faced by racialized students, staff, academics, professionals, and community members remain deeply entrenched. This is why we have not forgotten. You were not forgotten, and today we renew our pledge that you will not be forgotten. Recently, Queen's had made significant strides towards embedding equity, diversity, and inclusion within all aspects of its core mission. But the work of remembrance and of ensuring that everyone is able to access opportunities and to participate belongs to all of us. We can and must move beyond the symbolism of moments like this, as rich and significant as they are, toward fulfilling the promise of genuine reconciliation, inclusion, and accessibility. Honoring the legacy of medical students of African descent and all those whose contributions have been unrecognized or unrealized due to racism and discrimination requires nothing less.
Thank you, Stephanie. I will now call Senate to order formally and begin with our acknowledgement of our presence today on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, as well as the presence of this friendship wampum, given to Senate on behalf of the clan mothers of Tyendinaga and the Grandmothers Council in Kingston. We should always remember and honor the land on which we live. I'd also note that this is the final meeting of the academic year, and thank senators for their service to the university, and wish your members well.